Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to another video on my channel Hairliciously. If you guys are new to the channel, please make sure to subscribe so you guys are updated on hair loss and hair transplant topics, as well as updates on current hair loss treatments in the pipelines. Visit my website at HAIRLICIOUSLY.com to purchase your microneedling device, which is scientifically proven to stimulate hair growth, my low-level laser therapy cap, DHT vodka shampoo and serum, hair growth vitamins, and a few other products to help those who are losing hair. So in today's video, I wanted to discuss about an interesting article that I came across regarding the first ever skull and scalp transplant. This was actually back in 2015. But I actually came across this through Hair Loss Cure 2020's blog and figured that it would be worth sharing with you guys. So apparently a guy by the name of James Boyson from Texas was missing the whole crown area of his head after having received treatment for a rare type of cancer. He was diagnosed with something known as leiomyosarcoma in 2006, which is a cancer that affects the smooth muscle tissues. Unfortunately, this happened to occur on his scalp. This meant that most of his hairs, his scalp tissue, and even his parts of his skull would be affected. But luckily, he was able to treat the cancer with a combination of chemotherapy and radiotherapy treatment. But it did result in permanently damaging the surrounding tissue of his scalp and his skull and his hair, and it actually left his brain vulnerable to infection. Now, a little backstory. In 1992, he had underwent a kidney and pancreas transplant due to diabetes, and as a result of the immunosuppressive medication that he's been taking for the past couple of decades to prevent the body from rejecting the transplanted organs, it actually increased his risk for skin cancer. And as a result, the drugs that he was taking eventually led to the rare cancer leiomyosarcoma, affecting the muscles under his scalp. So fast forward to 2015, he's now got this massive 10-inch by 10-inch hole on the top of his scalp. It's basically the whole top portion of his scalp that needs to be covered up after cancer treatment. And to kind of make things even worse, his previously transplanted organs, the pancreas and the kidneys, were failing and needed to be replaced by another donor. Now, he was lucky enough to be able to find a donor, and his doctor made the connection between him needing a new kidney and pancreas and the ongoing anti-rejection medication to support them, and receiving a full scalp and skull transplant at the same time that would be protected by those very same medications. Now, if you guys were not aware, a person who has undergone an organ transplant, whether it be the lungs, the kidneys, or the heart, will need to take immunosuppressant medication for life, because the body's immune system is going to attack the donor organ cells, reacting to them as if they were harmful. So medication is required for most people to curb the immune system to prevent and treat rejection. And given that he was already on immunosuppressants, a scalp and skull transplant made sense because they too would be protected from being rejected. Unfortunately, we do not have any before photos of Mr. Boyson to kind of assess, what type of level of his hair loss that he had. But this is a few days after his scalp and skull transplant, and we can just see how extensive the area of coverage was required through the scalp flap. I think without the scalp transplant, it would have been a very difficult procedure with just skin grafts, given the extent amount of just coverage that would be required. And honestly speaking, it's crazy to see that the whole top scalp was transplanted, starting with where his forehead began and around the rim of his head. And what's even more crazy is that this is a photo of him a year after his surgery. And you can see a lot of hair that has been grown compared to what it was, a few days right after the surgery. His scars have healed up really nicely. And I think this shows the possibility that a donor scalp and even hair follicles through an FUT or an FUE hair transplant is able to be performed if a person is on immunosuppressant medication. We talk about how hair transplants have to be autologous, meaning that it can only come from the individual's own hair follicles from the back of the donor zone. And this is the case because if you're trying to use someone else's hair follicles, the body itself is going to reject it, just like how organ transplants would reject foreign organs without the use of immunosuppressants. It'd be really convenient for bald people to ask their family or friends to spare them a few thousand grafts, but unfortunately, that is not the case. And, you have to be willing to take immunosuppressant medication long-term, which most people, I don't think, would even consider or even opt for, given that immunosuppressants can cause a lot of side effects. It can increase things like, the risk of infection, malignancies, cancer, as it was the case for James. It can cause things like cardiovascular disease and just a plethora of other medical conditions that wouldn't even make it worth taking just for the sake of hair. Now, some people might think otherwise because some people do consider taking this because you'd actually be surprised to see what people would do solely for the sake of hair. There are people who are on hormone replacement therapy, which can just as likely increase the risk of certain medical conditions and even potentially cancer. But I do not know of any cases where a hair transplant doctor would even allow someone to take immunosuppressant drugs as a result of wanting to implant donor hair follicles. You can also run into the issue of, the body still rejecting the donor organs even while you're on, immunosuppressants. So that's always going to pose another problem as well. I guess it would work if you are already on immunosuppressant medication as a result of you being a recipient of an organ and, kind of like, I guess as a bonus, you wanted to, get more hair through using someone else's hair follicles for hair transplantation. That might work, but I think for the most case, that's probably not going to happen. I haven't even seen of any cases where something like that was even possible or even happening. The only way that you can actually implant and share someone else's hair follicles into your own scalp and have it successfully grow without the use of immunosuppressants is if you have an identical twin who is willing to donate you his or her hair follicles. Because identical twins have the same genotype and they also have the same hair follicle protein structures, donor sharing between identical twins should not theoretically incur attacks from the immune system. Now, with that said, while you can share hair grafts amongst identical twins, twins are also going to be suffering from the same degree of genetic hair loss. So chances are, if you guys both are lacking hair and you guys are afflicted with genetic hair loss, you both are going to need grafts anyway. This is even more so the case if you guys are not proactive to treat hair loss from further progression. I think a good example that I found online was an identical twin who had the same amount of hair loss throughout their childhood, their teenage years and their early adulthood. But they were both suffering from androgenetic alopecia with the same degree of hair loss. And the crazy thing about this case was that one of the twins had actually started taking dutasteride while the other did not do anything to slow the progression of further hair loss. And from these photos here, you guys can, just automatically tell that there is a pretty significant difference from the twin who had taken dutasteride versus the person who hasn't. He literally was able to fill up and regrow all of the bald areas on his crown, and he went from he literally went from a Nord 5 to a Nord 1, as you guys can see here. So basically, this shows that identical twins will suffer from the same degree of hair loss, and that if they should choose to receive donor hair, there probably won't be any issues as far as compatibility is concerned. And this is why even current stem cell research as far as hair follicle regeneration is concerned, it still has to be autologous. You have to use your own hair follicle stem cells or dermopapilla cells. Otherwise, the body is going to end up rejecting it. Anyway, guys, that's all I have for today's video. I hope that it's been informative. Let me know your thoughts on this topic. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Also, make sure to shoot me an email if you guys are near the DC area, the Virginia, Maryland. I actually recently opened up a scalp micropigmentation office. It's located in Rockville, Maryland. And I'm currently looking for people who are wanting to get their FUT or FUE scars covered up. If you guys are looking to rock the buzz cut look, SMP does a phenomenal job of creating an illusion of a full head of hair. Or maybe you're just thinning on a few areas on the top of your scalp and want to add more density to the hairline or the temples. Whatever the case is, reach out to me via email and I can give you guys a free online consultation and help you basically figure out what the best treatment option would be. I'm also doing consultations for hair loss, hair transplants. You guys can visit hairliciously@gmail.com and sign up. But if you guys have any questions, make sure to reach out to me. I'm available anytime. Leave me some comments and I will talk to you guys in my next video. Take care.